Thank you, Andy. Hi, everyone. My name is Shay Meddings, and I'm the host of the Mental as Anyone podcast. I'm a psychologist, and I interview comedians and other entertainers about their mental health with the aim of helping to increase understanding and awareness of mental health. I've had some really insightful and interesting conversations, including with Andy, and I encourage you to have a listen. So find Mental as Anyone through the Facebook page, on iTunes or other podcasting platforms. Stay safe and well.
Welcome back to the Antisocial Podcast, and before we kick into this episode, patreon.com/Andy Dowling. It is one of the best ways to support this podcast, in addition to all the usual things that I know you all do, like subscribing on Apple Podcasts or following on Spotify or sharing all the episodes with your mates and trying to get more and more people to listen to the podcast. You know, all that beautiful stuff that you guys already do. If you want to go one step further, patreon.com/Andy Dowling is a fantastic way to support and back your mate Andy and his little old podcast, the Antisocial Podcast. Supports us from only $1 a month, dirt cheap, and there are additional tiers to get access to the exclusive Patreon podcast episode that comes out every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Sydney time, in your ear holes. A bit of fun, and to just do something a little bit silly each and every week. So go and check it all out, patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Thank you so much for the support. Hey, episode 266 of the Antisocial Podcast. I always get excited when there's two sixes together. I'm thinking, oh, where's that third six? But I think it might be a few years before I get to episode 666. We'll get there eventually. But in the meantime, 266 is with a return guest, Jonathon Barwick. Jono has, or JB, has been on the podcast previously. Now, I should know these episode numbers off by heart by now, but I'm pretty sure it's episode 175 and 176, if I can recall correctly. Epic chats. It was one of those ones where we spoke for so long, we decided to split it in half and do two episodes, one after the other. So go back and have a listen to that. That was at a really interesting time for Jono, where he was wrapping up his time in Taberah and getting ready to take the steps into his next chapter of his musical journey and creative journey. And now, fast forward a little bit of time, he's just hit the ground running. He's got his project, Fierce Deity, and just doing amazing stuff. He has put out a number of singles over the past year and a half, and he's about to proceed with putting out a new album called Power, Wisdom, Courage. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that he's involved with. He's gone full-time as a musician and streamer as of this year in 2021, so that's pretty exciting. And we talk about all this stuff in this episode. So make sure you go to fiercedeityband.com. Also on Instagram, Facebook, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/fiercedeityband, fiercedeityband.bandcamp.com. All the stuff will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. But enough crapping on from me. Please enjoy this great chat with the man himself, Jono Barwick. Hey, Ben.
Yeah, good. It's been very different, I'll tell you that. I'm slowly adjusting to the unemployed life. The pull to go and do all of the things is quite loud, but it's wonderful. I got all this time to spend making music and thinking about music, and man, I'm doing good.
What do you mean getting pulled to do different things, like just from old routine?
Yeah, it's like I've how do I put this? The realization, I don't have to work today. Like, the pull to just do nothing is there more than I'd care to admit. Like, I sort of have to fight against that. I was kind of hoping that wouldn't be there, but it's definitely still there. But I think that's just because I was so drained and dead by working a job. So I think it's just it's a rebalancing. It's it's correcting itself again. Again.
Yeah, it kind of it might be a similar sort of example. It's kind of like going on a few weeks holiday, and it takes you a while to sort of calibrate and sort of get into the zone of sort of enjoying the freedom of being able to do what you want. And by the time that sort of rolls around and you start to feel it and go, oh yeah, okay, this is really good, then you usually only got a couple of days left before you have to go back to work anyway. So it's probably something like that. Although, for you to sort of make that decision of going back to a traditional job, I mean, that could be a hell of a long way off, if at all.
Yeah, best case scenario for it all. But I kind of don't mind the idea of picking up some part-time work, doing something. I could do that, but this no, I've got to take this leap now and see what happens.
You've been planning this for a while. I remember talking to you about this. Oh, I didn't even know how long ago. I mean, I don't know even if it was the last time we did the podcast or one of the podcasts, but I know you've been planning behind the scenes and scheming for quite some time. This is not just a pull the pin, stuff it, let's throw it all in the ring. It's you've taken the sensible approach by the sounds of it.
Yeah, like definitely took the sensible approach. Like I never wanted to get a job in the first place. Like when I was like 20, like 10 years ago, I only did it because like other people told me it was a good idea. Because that's what I used to be like. But no, I've been planning. Since it became realistic, it's been about, what is it, 2021? It's been about almost 4 years now, I guess, where it stopped seeming so silly, and I had to go through this stage of I guess I was getting gassed by the people around me who thought it was silly. So I had to sort of get beyond them. And once I got beyond them and started hanging out with some people who sort of felt the same way about life than me, like, yeah, hang on, no, man. Like, yeah, this doesn't feel right. Like, I shouldn't be feeling like this quiet desperation every day. Like, there's certain things that are good for some people, but like, they're not good for me. So like, I got to know myself and realize like what I want, just how much I need to survive, like, and you know, it all became very realistic into this point where I was like, man, I think it's time to pull the pin. So I gave my old job, I told them back in August, I think it's like by the end of January I'm going to be out. So I gave them plenty of leeway. So yeah, not a brash decision. I feel like I've been working towards it my whole life.
It's a weird one. I mean, I've always, dabbled in a whole bunch of different things, and I've been lucky with jobs that I've had where it's sort of given me flexibility to do different things, or air quotes multitask, especially working sort of office-based jobs or things that you can just sit in front of a laptop. You don't have to be in front of people. But just reprogramming your head as far as what society expects you to do. Your typical thing. You're a kid. You grow up. You go to primary school. You go to high school. You might get tertiary sort of education or something like that, or you hit the workforce, and that's pretty much it. And so it's a really hard thing to sort of reprogram, and that's why I was doing the self-starter podcast stuff for a while there, where I was just so fascinated with people who just decided to just reprogram themselves in a different way and go, well, I can still have a job, so to speak, but I'm going to do it on my own terms, be my own boss, and have a little bit more control over what I want to do. But that's such a hard thing to do, and it's so scary, and especially like as you said before, like sort of anybody else sort of saying, oh, it's sort of a crazy concept. It's a difficult hurdle to get over, which most people don't get over. So even just you sort of mentioning it in the past, it's exciting sort of living vicariously through you. Go, Jono, go.
Yeah. Oh no, he's homeless. Fuck. Oh well. There's a beauty in that. Like I'm fully aware that, I'm fully aware of the odds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm fully aware of all that, but like, I just reached a point in life where I do not care if it fails, and I think that might be the key that like all these other people have found. Like, well, this 9 to 5, like I mentally couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't, I was waking up and it's like, I don't want to get out of bed. Like this is bad. And I was kind of blessed by, I was blessed by seeing my parents not do anything, not take any risks, or you fail to kind of adapt to change. And when bad luck came their way, they sort of I don't want to say they failed to adapt. It makes them sound like bad people, but the bad luck came and decisions were made, and unfortunately for them, alcohol dependency took them. So I sort of got this glimpse of the future of what happens if you don't, take the chance while you've still got it. I've seen what it looks like when the door's shut behind you, so to speak. So I knew I didn't want to do that, and I was starting to get to the point where the call to on the weekend, just get get stoned for the whole weekend, or go out and drink a bunch of beers, or I could feel that voice coming in, because it was kind of the only thing that would work and make things all right. So again, it's, if you can work that 9 to 5 job and be comfortable and whatnot, that's good. But for me, I was just miserable, really, deep down.
It's tough as well because especially, well, depending on, the type of work, but most work involves a degree of energy, even if you are sitting down all day. And it's just because for the most part, or for most people's jobs, you're doing something that really, it might be good enough or it might be comfortable enough, but it's not something terribly interesting or you're passionate about. So it requires a degree of energy to get through the day, even if you're just sitting there. Yeah. And so, by the time, whatever the time is, 5:30 or whatever rolls around, and you get back home, in order to sort of motivate yourself to do anything that you're interested in is really, really tough. And so that's why you got that cycle, that life cycle where you sort of, you go home, you sit on the couch, turn on the TV or whatever, or now it's probably just a phone or whatever. And then the weekends, going out and writing yourself off, but it's just to try and escape for a moment in time before Sunday night rolls around. You think, oh, fuck, start again.
I totally get the allure of it, man. It's just like quick fun. Like you just like, okay, I've got like 2 days. Like I need the most fun possible. I remember what's fun, 12 beers. like that worked in the past. Like it's a horrible cycle. And like my job wasn't hard by any, like I've always worked some sort of like laborious job, like where I'd lift things that the other people didn't want to lift. Like that was like, I was always like a gronk. And I don't know if it was just like, I used to be able to do it when I was young and then like have heaps of energy. But as I sort of started to get older, I'm like, man, I'm not qualified to do anything else. So like, it's kind of, I better go and do this now, because there'll always be time to like come back to things like this. I mean, by the time they've invented the robot that can, like be a storeman, like fully and properly, we'll have other problems. Like I won't be worried about not being able to work. We'll be worried about fighting off the invasion and stuff like that. So it's like, this felt like the last window, and especially like the year that we've all just like had, I just saw things so clearly. I was like, this isn't secure at all. Like the big pool of a 9-to-5 job is the security. And like, imagine these people that were like grinding away, as you said, like, I'm not interested in this. I'd rather be doing this, but I'll go and grind and work at the clothes shop. And then like the shit hits the fan for a bit and you're like, oh, you're not essential, go home. Like, imagine that, like all that time you've spent, all those years, and now you're 29 years old and, you're assistant, junior manager, like, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing just doesn't appeal to me, but I did it for as long as I could. And like, I never worked hard jobs or anything like that, but like, I'm just not that kind of human. Like I sit there and stare off into, I just start like daydreaming, and like it was just wearing me down more so at this point. I think that might be because we're living in this ridiculous time where people are getting paid to do ridiculous things. And so that's why it sort of became more realistic. As unrealistic as it is, it's more realistic now than it's ever been.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, the way that the internet works, it focuses on the success stories and not the failures. But,
hell yeah,
as far as the tools that are required and the level, the level of entry to get into it all, it's never been easier, and the opportunities are there. And I think I'm just taking a stab in the dark here. Obviously, you need that point of difference. You need some talent. You need some creativity. But I think ultimately with a lot of this stuff it's the showing up every single day. It's the consistency of taking that whatever the approach that you're going to take and becoming a reliable source for people and being consistent. And I think those sort of very basic, simplistic sort of approaches can probably separate yourself from others that may fail along the way because they can't see the long-term sort of vision or the possibilities there. Because I think like, with a lot of the streaming stuff and the stuff online, the way that you can sort of monetize anything and make money, and even, I don't think we even really use the word monetize that much anymore. It's just basically earning revenue, earning money online. It's no different to a normal job, really. It's no different to an office job, and it's just the same principles are in place. You show up and you put in the hours.
You do, like, and it's so much better being happy and anxious than it is being safe and miserable. Like, that's what I've deducted so far. Like, it's been a month, and I've like this fear and excitement that I'm filled with. Like, it feels like life, and like I'm existing in this world of, hey, everything I do is going to be free, but you pay. Like, if you want to pay me, here are the channels. Like that's all set up. Like the income streams are ready there, and you know, like people give music fans a bad rap these days. Like there are people giving money to artists.
Yeah,
like a proof of it. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, it's I didn't. I mean, I knew about it because obviously, you know, for both of us playing in bands over the years, you know, you can see it when at the merch table when people come up and buy merch and they're really dedicated to it. But I think I've always seen it as very niche as far as it's only these types of people, you know, if I'm going to stereotype somebody, and for the most part, the masses don't really appreciate it and won't spend the money, and they'll stream their stuff for free and they won't do anything else. But I think maybe it's been the last 12 months, possibly, and maybe the way that the world's sort of throwing everything upside down, maybe I think everybody is sort of looking inwards and going, well, you know, it's not just me anymore. It's not just me being impacted, it's everybody, and maybe people are thinking a little bit more outwardly to try and help each other, because I see it, even myself just doing, well, the band as well as the podcast, I mean, especially the podcast when I did Patreon last year. I mean, that was a fucking minefield to motivate myself to launch that. There was a lot of psychological negotiating that had to happen inwards with myself, but
dude, yeah, I got a question regarding that actually. Well, a quick note actually, potential soundbite of the conversation coming up. This is a sidebar, like completely unrelated.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you can hear my voice crystal clear right now, well, like I want you to hear this. If you're one of those people that thinks artists aren't essential and you took that stance during the COVID and whatnot, yet you spent your whole lockdown like watching Netflix and listening to music, like go suck a doorknob in Wuhan, like right now, like get on the next plane and go and cancel yourself, you moron. Anyway, coming back to Patreon. Question, like now that we're both doing it and whatnot, so like what was it, 8 years ago, Neobliviscar has come out and we go, we're doing Patreon. Be honest, did you shit can them?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah
Definitely, without a doubt. I mean,
I was so like, I looked at it and I was talking to the boys, like the band I was in Taberah, and I was like, I think these guys are ahead of the curve. I had that feeling, but of course, like the shit canning came through, and I was like, "Yeah, no, it fucking sucks." Like, but now, like, they were so far ahead of it, man.
They were, and look, it's a tough one because you know hindsight's always, you know, it's convenient to sort of lean back and sort of analyze the past. But I mean, I think where a lot of that came from was, I think the band had already had a bit of stigma attached to them, and I think that didn't aid well for them. So I think if the band had a different level of respect from probably Australians, Australian music fans or the Australian music scene, then maybe it would have been, I think there still would have been a bit of shit canning, I think, because it's just different, and the model of asking people for money, and it's not even asking. I mean, like now, years later, it's not even asking at all. It's basically you're creating an opportunity for people to give you money if they want to.
I love that, yeah.
But at the time, it was just, I think there was a little bit of a perception of sort of
asking.
But I think there was sort of, I think the way that they portrayed themselves was a little bit above everybody else as well, and I think the way that they interacted with people and so whether that was the reality or not is another thing altogether. But I think the perception out there was that. And I think that then mixed in with this brand new platform where they're basically creating a subscription for people, and everyone just started, you know, ripping that apart and just saying, well, you're just taking advantage of fans. But really, I mean, how can you take advantage of somebody if you're not forcing them to do something? You open the door, and if people want to walk in, then good on them. And,
yeah, exactly.
And even today, like...
Well, no, not like completely, because like, you know, that's like saying is like, hey, if that pensioner thinks that they're rescuing a Nigerian prince with their bank details, like, fair enough. Like, there's a limit. But I know what you're saying. At the time, they were like they just like toured some ridiculously obscure like places, and they're like, oh no, we're broke. And we're like, well, don't tour Abu Dhabi. Like you know, do Melbourne. Like it's
I think they had a welcome video, like an introduction video, where they were sort of explaining the concept and the reason why they did it. I think it probably missed the mark a little bit, and I think that probably didn't help.
They walked, so I could come through, and it was much easier for me. So thanks, Neo.
That's it. But I mean, even I think a few months ago, I had a bit of a sticky beak to see whether it's still up and running and how they're doing, and they're still chugging away. And I can't remember how much they're getting per month, but it is good coin. And
I get real curious about other people's Patreons, dude. I love leaving yeah, like how much, like how much, and like you go around and like, you know, Tim Dillon, he's like, his Patreon pops, so he makes like 70 grand a month.
It's insane.
It's so crazy, dude.
And that's separate to all the other money he would already be getting through a whole bunch of different
things. We can't do jobs at the moment, so it's like, do you even need to? Like, you don't have to do that now unless you want to. Like, how good would that be for a band?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it'd just be insane. I mean, I've been trying to convince our guys to do it for years, for the last couple of years. And I don't know, I might not be able to twist their arms. I think it's just a little bit too outside the box, but they might come around eventually. But I think just especially for a band like us, I mean, we've got so much content and stuff where we could easily drip feed things out over a period of time. We've got the resources to do it, but I think the mental commitment of that guilt money and then knowing that we have to fulfill it is, I think, mentally a big hurdle to jump over. Yeah,
you feel like you're not going to be enough. Like, that's how I felt. It's like, man, like, what if? Like, you feel like you get that imposter syndrome almost, especially when the first ones start rolling in, and you're like, oh, wow, okay,
it's happening.
Like, people are coming. Like, yeah, people are coming into the thing. All right, cool. Like, here's the stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, thanks. And you're like, oh, yeah, cool. All right, cool. That's, you know, okay, good. We're settled. Like, it's a really jumpy time. Like, I got massively unsure. Like, again, the imposter syndrome and whatnot, but I don't know, like, all I really do is stuff that if my favorite bands did it, I'd be so stoked on. Like, that's my whole business model.
Yep.
So if someone messages me, I'd be like, man, if, like, I message bands that, you know, aren't so big they can't respond to an Instagram, it wouldn't be hard, guys. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not that big. It's not popping that much. But, like, I would, like, just be thrilled if they got back to me and actually responded to the things I said, to like a very specific, you know, message to that person. And like, I've had a great time doing it. Like, it's really cool. There's like lots of people out there. Like, I feel so connected now, this little fan base, this community and whatnot, from, you know, actually engaging, not like that fake engagement that we're all doing in like 2012. It's a real engagement now. Like, bands have had to succumb, really. And it's glorious, because I think it's just like this wonderful new age. It's like this moment in history in the music industry where you can't just, you know, will yourself into a hotel covered in whipped cream and then be a legend forever. Like, people are past that. We don't care. Like, if anything, it's like, we don't want that. Like, we don't want Motley Crue anymore. Like, we did the Me Too thing. Like, that's not okay. Like, how those guys didn't get Me Too'd is fucking beyond me, by the way. Like, it's all there in the books. Like, how did they dodge that? Like, we don't want that anymore. We want, like, we want, you know, people making cool shit.
I was speaking to Mike from Toe Hider, and there's another couple of guys who have done really well on Patreon themselves. And I think the thing that we sort of eventually, with a lot of waffling, eventually got to the point where I think what people on both sides of the fence, whether it be the artist or the music fan or the supporter or the person who just, you know, wants to get behind an artist or whatever, I think that the common thing that people are searching for is connection. And having some sort of impact and feeling validated that they exist. And you nailed it on the head before, like that feeling that you get when somebody interacts with you online, someone that you have looked up to in the past, you respect, and you get this little rush and you go, whoa, how cool is that? I want to give other people that feeling. I mean, I might not be, I can't even fucking talk this evening, but like, you know, a super...
Do you do this for a living, or?
One day maybe, but but you know, I'm not some superstar or anything like that. But at the same time, there are people that I've interacted with over the years who really enjoy what we do as a band, and even what I've been doing over the past several years with the podcast. And so for me, I just think, what would I like to see and to receive back from somebody if I was, you know, sending them a compliment, or I sent them a message or commented on something? And so I just want to sort of reverse that and start giving that out to people and not expecting it in return. And they're really simple concepts, and they're things that you sort of get taught as a kid, you know, but they don't really sort of, you know, they don't sink in. for most people. So I've sort of concluded that a lot of this stuff now with Patreon and building a community of people. I mean, it's not even a fan base anymore. And I think we've probably spoken about this in the past about the word fan. I'm still struggling to sort of shed that word completely because it just seems there's a nice part to it, but I still hold too many negative things attached to the word. But it's just, you just want a community of people. You want a group of friends and people that support you and you support them, and find ways to give and take and go back and forth. And
absolutely,
I think that's where music and a lot of creativity is going now.
Well, people, I think a lot of people don't really take into account about how music actually exists. It's the live show itself, and we're learning that with these horrible attempts at live shows now, but the audience really is a massive percentage of what makes a live show so good. I mean, there's you hear a song and it's fine, I guess, but when you times that by, you're surrounded by 200 strangers who all love this band like you do, and this the sweat, the sensory, all of that type of stuff, that's where the songs actually that's where they become hits for people. And the connection with the fan. I mean, obviously it's even to the most obvious point, your songs don't exist unless someone's listening to them. So really without those fans, I'll air quote it because I'm kind of like you, I don't really feel like there's fans of Deity. It doesn't feel like that at all. It's just because I'm inboxing these people with hey, what's going on? It's different. It's not this meet and greet type thing. If you can't do a Patreon but you can do a meet and greet, get the fuck out. You're offering nothing. You're literally offering them to just stand in front of you and you to pretend to care who they are for a little bit. What was I saying? I've lost my train of thought. The fan, the music, it feeds off itself. You could write it the song, but until someone's just oh man, I really dig that. I really dig that song. And then you go, oh okay, okay, now I dig that song too. If it's subconscious or whatnot, you try and write stuff you like because I've always known what good music sounds like, but I've just been trying to learn how to make it. So in that feedback, it fuels the whole thing. I'm not going to go and I can pay for a website and do all of this shit if it seemed like no one was going to enjoy it. They're just as important to the thing, the operation is it's more important than I think they've ever been given credit for. The poor fan.
I mean, it's the old concept of, as you said before, being the old concept, but the old concept of being in a venue and seeing a band, and it's the energy back and forth. And we've both played shows where there's been fuck all people in the room, and you've got to really dig deep to get that energy to entertain that that 5 or 10 people in the room or whatever it is. But then the shows where you've got a lot of people and they're all energized, then it's so much more natural. You're not forcing it.
Yeah.
And I think now,
but
I think now the challenge that we have is that because no one's getting out there and playing, you're not getting that energy anymore. And so what you're seeing is you're looking at, I don't know, your artist app on Spotify, and you're looking at the numbers each day and seeing whether, you're getting any spikes or not. You might get a couple of love hearts or, little social media sort of ticks and thumbs up and whatever. Yeah. But you don't actually know people's reactions to songs. You don't know what they actually like or why they like it or just how fired up they get from a song. And so every once in a while, you get a message and you get a DM from somebody and they're just fuck oath, and they're getting all emotional about a song that you posted, and then that's that's a drug, man. That's
it's filling the void for now.
Oh, and you sort of sit back and go, oh yeah, we have done some all right music over the years, because everything sort of, you forget about it.
You lose it.
Yeah, and so
yeah, you do.
So I think the fan or the person who's out there supporting music, I mean, it's so. I mean, I crap on about this on the podcast all the time when I wrap up the episodes, and I'm always saying, guys, reach out to this guest or any of the guests that have been on the podcast over the past 5 years, because they'd be stoked to hear from you. Not only are they, sacrificed a bit of their time to talk to me, But, you know, they're doing their own thing. They're on their own path. And just to get any positivity and any sort of feedback from somebody, hey, I heard you on this podcast or whatever, really cool. I'm going to support you, or I'm going to check out your music or whatever it is. And for me, like, I'm not getting anything immediate out of that, but just the fact that if I'm able to create some kind of energy and spark the energy where I can get other people to then make someone else feel good. I mean, fuck, I mean, that's fulfilling. That's amazing. And so for me, I've had this light bulb moment the past few months, but especially this year. And I've started to think, how can I not change the podcast, but just direct it in a slightly different angle where I'm serving people more so than just scratching my own itch and enjoying and entertaining myself. Because it's always been a case of, I'll talk to whoever I'm interested in and I get entertained. And if you enjoy listening to it, then it's a bonus. But now I'm thinking, how do I find that balance where I can still do that and do it on my own terms, but be a little bit more proactive and serve people and make them feel fulfilled and give them impact and make, I don't know. I mean, this might be just me, me growing up and maturing. I don't know. Yeah,
well, you know, that's kind of what happens, isn't it? Like, the more you mature, the more sense of like outside yourself you get and whatnot. And and I guess the only really way to do that is to just ask people, hey, like, it's kind of nice. Like, hey, like, how can I? Like, is there anything I could do? Is there anything I could do that like you would find cool? And you know, if someone says, oh, like, it's interesting. I'd be interested to find out what this song's about, and then go and cut a YouTube video on all your songs about where they came from or whatnot, like that. Like, it's kind of just, this feeds itself. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, it's a wonderful. I love the idea of the old concept of a band. Like, that's gone now, man. Like, I got woken up by the idea of like being a one man project, like Kanye. Like I literally, like, I make my own beats, like that. That's always been I make all this shit. But like, I need to keep in touch with people. I need people to like hear this and then get in touch with me and say, hey, I heard you on that thing. It's like, oh, and you said like you were always asking what ideas. Here's an idea, and then it's like, okay, cool. Like, I know I put it on the list, and it just keeps moving forward. It's kind of the only way to move forward is to serve other people, and just. Because it's like, I wouldn't have ever had that idea. That's a cool idea. I don't have a band to like bounce things off anymore. So it's like, it's kind of this fan fueled thing. I guess it's the same with your podcast. It's just you. Yeah,
definitely. And now I've noticed since Patreon and having a small community of people that that cop shit from me, basically just with my ranting and doing a little podcast and all that sort of stuff, that people are bouncing back to me a lot more within this smaller community. Whereas, you know, over the years of doing the podcast, I would get messages from people every once in a while, but it was very infrequent. I'd just see the numbers, and so I would just have to fantasize what those numbers meant, who potentially could be listening to it. Are any of my mates listening to it, or are they strangers? Who knows? Now with Patreon, I've got people that are actually messaging me and responding to things that I'm talking about on the podcast that I do for Patreon. And so I might have a fucking borderline breakdown on the podcast about something. And then when I put the episode out, I'm getting people messaging me going, that was fucking hilarious, so funny, blah, 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 keep doing more of that, or whatever it is. Or I'll ask a question and then people give me feedback and answer. And so now it's becoming more interactive. And then I'm acknowledging that when I do the next episode as well, just to make sure that loop continues. It's not just...
Yeah, they're improving you.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. So it's been... it's been a real journey over a short space of time with it all. And I mean, I was surprised that it took you as long as it took to get to Patreon, because I think just with the way you'd gone through releasing the last several songs, and I guess the path that you were on, I don't know, I just kind of thought that this was something that you're sniffing out a lot earlier, but maybe you were, and just you're being a little bit strategic.
I sniffed it out a while, but not semi-recently. I think maybe November, a friend said to the same friend that told me to get a Bandcamp.
Oh, nice.
Was like,
what a friend.
Like, yeah, he's like, dude, you haven't got Bandcamp. I'm like, no, I never have. He's like, bro. And so I, of course, get on Bandcamp and find out like, oh, wow, people pay for music.
Yeah.
And so he came back, he's like, you should think about Patreon. I was like, you were right about Bandcamp. I'll do it. And again, I put it out to like the people that were commenting the most on my just general socials and be like, hey man, if I was going to start this is not a like, hey, will you sign up if I do this? It's just, hey, what is like, if a band you love did, like, what kind of cool shit would you like to see? So like the ideas started spinning, and of course I went through like, I came up with like a huge list of ideas, whittled it down, had the tiers all split up into all of this like nonsense and whatnot. And then like pretty much like the week before I pulled the trigger, I was just like burned a whole bunch of the stuff, simplifies it with like 3 tiers of like just simplicity. And yeah, like people jumped on it, which was so sick. And I guess it's kind of true what they say of like, if you know, I've bet on myself here.
Yeah.
This is like I've bet on myself, and people like you said, you're living vicariously through it. Like, man, if I can do that for some, like I've been living vicariously through people my whole life. It'd be nice to, like, if I could like lead the kind of life that you know, someone else might find interesting, but it's that's a weird way to put it. But like I'm you know, finally, you know, doing it my way and whatnot. So it's kind of, you know, put up or shut up time. Like I got a Patreon because if people want to join it, there's stuff there for them. There's a Bandcamp. It's all free, but you can chuck me 60 cents for that song too. And like it's great. Like pay me what you think it's worth. It's this wonderful like stance. I feel very rarely in my life have I ever felt like I'm exactly where I need to be. But like right now, I've got that feeling.
It must be exciting when you've got an element of control, even though you don't know exactly what the future is going to bring for yourself, and there's a lot of unknowns, but sort of having some kind of system in place and knowing that ultimately each decision that you make each day is on you. You're making that call. You don't have to vet it through anybody else. And obviously as Patreon gets bigger, then you've kind of got a community of people that maybe you're a little bit more accountable for, but ultimately you're driving that ship. You know, you're the one that's leading the way, as you said before. So, I mean, I don't think a lot of people get to feel that. I don't think a lot of people get to feel it at all.
No, it's a wonderful, and like I said, like I got it to the point where I don't care if it fails, but like even a kind of, I think it's a famous Stoic idea that like living for one day or 1,000 is the same. So whether you get to experience something once or 100 times is kind of irrelevant, because if you get to experience it once, it's the same as experiencing it 100. You get to experience it, yes or no. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like even if it just lasts, I saved up a bunch of money for the last year, and I've got roughly 6 months to do nothing. Like if I don't make any money for 6 months, I'll be fine. So even if it only lasts 6 months, then like at least I got to like feel this feeling today. Like I woke up and my plans for the day was go and hang out with a mate who's kind of in the same boat. He's just showing me his tunes. He's like doing something wildly different. It's like indie pop, like psychedelic British. He's British, so it sounds British. And yeah, so shout out to Ross Crick. Hung out with him in the morning, drank coffee. We just spitballed ideas. I got full of wind. I came home, worked on drums, and then, you know, streamed on Twitch, and now I'm like here doing an interview like that. Is that not like a great fucking day? Like it is for me. Like that's my perfect day. Like by my barometer and like what I'd like out of life, all of this is just, you know, wonderful. I sat and had dinner with my partner. We got to be, you know, sit quietly and talk for, you know, 45 minutes. It was like, and I saw her at the beginning of the day. I'll see her at the end. Like it's this wonderful. And if I might prattle on, like what I want the most is to have all of this stuff happening. Like I want to be like do Deity, and I want to like be a personality and like meet all, you know, have that life where I meet all these interesting people and really don't know what's, you know, going to happen. But I kind of also like to be able to turn it all off. So when I shut down my computer, shut down the Twitch stream, I could go out there and I'd like go and play with the cat. Like it, you know, it's not like I don't have any desire to do the local scene ever again. Like I don't want to go and do red eye flights, play to 15 people. Like I did it, and it was fun when I was in my early 20s. But like I know my music, I've always written like big music, and I think, you know, I think Lord is somewhat the same, man. Like that, I always identified the same kind of problems. Like I've always felt like maybe not so much the Taberah stuff, because it was sort of like my, you know, infancy of song crafting and whatnot, but like the Deity stuff, the stuff I'm writing, and always the stuff that Lord Tim writes, it only really ever makes sense if you're listening to it by yourself or you're in a packed out place of like 300 plus people. It doesn't really make any sense in a bald-faced stag with 40 people. So I never want to take that music there. I never want to take Deity to the pub. If it builds a following, I'll put a group together, and hopefully the following will be strong enough that I could like handpick great players. Be like, hey, dude, do you want to do this run of shows? We're playing here, here, and here, and because it'll be cool and fun, they'll be like, oh, fuck yeah, I'd love to do that, or no, I can't do that, and then I'll go to plan B. Like I don't ever want to. I can do a Sydney to Melbourne cherry bar to the bald-faced stag thing ever again. Like I just had enough of that.
Yeah, man, I hear you. It's very hard to get the conviction of the music out to people in a room when the majority of that noise is bouncing off walls and an empty floor. It's and like here's tough. Another note, like it's why when Taberah got the bigger shows, it worked. It's because we were that band, like we were the hi-fi or the Enmore kind of performing band. The same with you guys. Like I'm sure it all made way more sense when you're playing at 170 Russell or whatever it's called. Yep.
Opening for Halloween. Like everything makes sense there. Like it doesn't really make sense because you're not playing 12 bars and trying to be AC/DC 2.0. You know what I mean? Like you guys are like writing like big music, big songs, big ideas.
Yeah, I think that and also just being able to be out for a while and build that chemistry and lock in and feel the flow. We spoke about this last. I think we did. Man. And one of my biggest regrets is not knowing what Taberah would be like after like 30 shows in 2 months or something. Yeah. Big runs. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just getting a taste of that where you get to like, the third, fourth show or something like that, and you're just starting to gel and you just reach this different level where you go, we haven't played like this before, and it's this different, it's different level of fun that's attached to it, and then, well, that's it. I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, back home, and back for another few weeks or few months at home, not playing again. Then you have to dust off the cobwebs and start all over again, and it's a big drain kill, and that's tough. I mean, that's a thing that I'm still struggling with now, where. Oh, I mean, it's probably been a little bit convenient that COVID's happened in a way, because I haven't had to stress about sort of thinking about shows or trying to work something out, because I've still got that itch. I still want to play, and I don't think the other guys do as much. I think Tim every once in a while. I don't think Mark does that much these days, and we don't really have a drummer. We haven't really had a drummer for a long time, and so we've had some great guys that have jumped on board to do a run of shows, but like that chemistry thing, you can have a fantastic session guy that comes in, he knows the stuff, he's written it all out, but you still don't have that chemistry, and it still takes a while for that all to gel in. Yeah,
it takes shows. I feel like if you get a session guy for a run, and you could get session guys in to do a run of shows and find that, like, they're great players and whatnot, like the match fitness would come, but no, not for like 3 gigs every 9 months.
No, it's just tough. It's tough stuff. So that's still something in the back of my mind, and I think all the COVID stuff sort of tamed a bit of that down with myself, where I'm starting to think, and I'm forced to have to think differently about just life and the future. And I think a lot of musicians are in a similar boat now, where they're just re-looking at what they've been doing for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 odd years, and going, well, I don't think I can do that anymore. Like, even if I wanted to do it, I don't think I physically can do it. So what else do I do, or what's my purpose now? Like, where am I going to find that satisfaction, that fulfillment? And some people are finding some great alternatives, and other people are still struggling because they just haven't been able to connect the dots yet. But it's a tough one.
That's why I'm lucky.
Yeah,
I'm very lucky that my love for music is the creation of it. I love putting a song together, having the artwork in my head, and having this whole idea, and then just striving to bring it to life to that release day. And then it's so wild. Like, these 5 songs that I've done, my whole life for 3 years was figuring out how to get these 5 songs out. And as soon as each one came out, I wouldn't listen to it. It was like, this magical thing that I find where I love to have the next thing like I love to be working on the next thing. So, you know, in these circumstances, for what I am, which is like a streamer that makes music, like I'm not a band guy, you know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to do that stuff. Like I'm playing a totally different game. So I'm very lucky. And it all became clear because of COVID. Like I got to watch what the big bands would do if they couldn't tour. Like not even the Rolling Stones could tour, Andy. Like what are the Rolling Stones going to do if they can't tour? Like, and you know, some bands really embrace, like Sabaton did that like big YouTube series, and like you got to see all these bands like figure it out, and other bands just flail around and talk about how much they miss playing to 40 people and all this other bullshit. Like it's like nah. And like pretty much you get unfollowed. Like I'm just like nah, I don't want negativity. I don't care that Spotify don't pay me anything because I've got some like real solid like community. Like it's, you know, I don't have the same problems as these people because I chose not to consider it a problem. You know, it's great. Spotify's sick because like 6,000 people have heard The Path that like wouldn't have heard it if it wasn't on Spotify. Like you've got to start thinking differently. If you're listening out, this is for the people that know there's a problem, know they are the problem and want to change something. Like the first thing, you stop seeing problems. It's like, it doesn't suck. You know, you suck. There you go. There's my self-help. I gotta be careful, man. Like, because people are perceiving me leaving my job as some kind of success. Like, it's really not. Like, all I did was tell the boss that after this date I wasn't going to turn up. Like, I'm not going to live forever. Like, this is me betting on myself because it's like, you know, what else are we going to do while we're alive on this earth? Like, every breath is a miracle. Like, why go to and enter invoices all day if that's not what makes you happy? So, like, and people, you know, come and like want to pick my brain about things, and I'm thinking like, oh, I don't really think I'm in any position to help. And I'll tell people what I did and what I did wrong and whatnot, but the last thing I want to do is end up on TikTok and be like, here's 3 ways you're banned. Like, I can't stand that shit, dude. And you gotta look at the bands they've worked with or like who they're helping. You're like, you're not doing your job because I haven't heard of any of these people. And it, like the danger to you know, glorify yourself. Oh, and I feel it, Andy. Don't worry about that. Like I feel the pull to glorify myself every day, but I hold it in. So
it's a bit of that influencer culture, and I can see a lot of bands and people in the music industry that have
fallen for it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely. And you know, I know it's such a muddy subject, and it's dirty and disgusting. But then there are some positive stories that come out of it, but they're few and far between compared to the masses. And I think it's just this. I think we're just going through. I think you might have used this word right at the beginning of the chat, but like this correction, you know, this readjustment, you know, and I think everybody's still going through that, and will probably go through it for the next couple of years while we try and work out what's life going to be like, you know, in this post-pandemic world, whenever that's going to happen, because that might not even happen for a couple of years. So it's interesting just to watch people navigate it, try different things, experiment, and I think some people are doing it from a really good place, other people aren't. Some people are looking for very easy ways to make money, but might not be the most genuine way, and that's obviously not going to be sustainable. And other people are actually trying to, this sounds really cheap, but reinvent themselves in a way where they can sort of find this new fulfillment and find ways to take opportunity from a bad situation. And I think that's sort of what you're alluding to before, is sort of like, well, yeah, okay, Spotify might be, you know, a pack of cunts because they only pay you, you know, a microcent per stream, and it's going to take you X amount of tens of thousands of streams to earn the equivalent of a fucking cheeseburger or whatever it is. Yeah. But as you said, people listening to it, and if you're smart enough, and this is not just the path to go down, this is just one consideration that you can have, is that that builds awareness, which then leads you to Bandcamp, it leads you to Patreon, it leads you to Twitch, it leads you to all these other things where you build a community. And you give them reasons to listen to you and check you out and support you, and hopefully throw some money on the table and back what you do. And we know, like, before Spotify even existed, you know, you go to a show and, you know, you're only going to win over a small percentage of the crowd. And, you know, you go and do a fly drop at a show. I remember, like, you know, years ago, we'd go to the Horden, there'd be a big band playing at the Horden, and a few of us would walk up and down the massive, the massive line, thousands of people, and people going, oh, Andy, blah, blah, because I've drunk with them, and I'm finding all the people with Iron Maiden t-shirts because I want to convert. But most of those people threw the fucking flyers on the ground, or they never bothered to check out the music. And but it's always been a ratio. It's always been a small percentage of the masses that are actually going to take the extra step to go and do something for you and support you. But these are all tools. Spotify is one tool in the toolbox, and it's not everything. And
no, you can't just all bank on one thing. No,
not at all.
Yeah, I had this wild thing. I can't remember where I heard it, and forgive me if it was your idea, and now I'm here in public, like bringing it back like it's my idea, like I'm about to teach you something. Did you show me the 1,000 true fans theory?
Yeah, I did. Well, I don't know if I did, but I've spoken about it a bit.
Yeah, you hit it like, yeah, it must have been you I heard it from. But like that blew my mind, man, because like the scale of 1,000 fans is so small. Yep. Compared to like when you pick up your instrument for the first time and you're just like, I'm going to be Aerosmith. Like you're going to, you know, like it actually doesn't take a lot of money to sustain a band.
No.
Like the band, like living off the band and sustaining the band is like different things. But like 1,000 true fans that you get $100 a year from. And if you're a band, that's like 2 shirts and an album. And like the $100, that's $100,000 a year. Like that's really crazy math. Like I say it to myself every now and then and be like, oh, this is actually super achievable. So even a fraction of that, I'm not qualified to earn that amount of money. Like I should not be allowed. Like I hope someone will put a stop to it and be like, you're actually not allowed to have that amount of money, because that would be silly. I wouldn't know what to do with that amount of money. But yeah, like it's all that you have to set up don't complain unless you're trying everything. But then again, don't try everything because if it's not natural, people are going to know. I'm kind of lucky because ever since I first got my hands on a microphone, like I felt something. I loved having my voice be louder than everyone's. Like, I don't know, it's just something, good and bad. It's helped and hindered me along my life. But like the Twitch stuff and like chatting to people, like the social, like it's all very natural for me. So this is just what I did, other than, doing the red eye flights and like trying to grind, waiting for that 40 people gig, the one that's going to change everything. Like I just figured it out.
Well, you're sort of maximizing something that comes natural to you instead of sort of diluting it and displacing it by sort of also having to, split the energy of putting it into other areas that are bringing you no value whatsoever. You're channeling it into a very sort of concentrated path that makes a lot more sense.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense for me. Like when it all hit me, it was like this beautiful moment of like, oh, I could be that. I could be like this like unknown thing. It's like I'm like a one-man just music making machine thing. And it all just like sort of clicked into place day after day, sitting there typing in the invoice. It's been like, oh, I wonder like if anyone's tried this and, someone has. Cool. How did they do it? Like it was just all this unraveling process that I think people just can't be bothered doing because, I don't know, something, again, trying to avoid the self-help thing here, but it's easier to not try and never succeed and, live in the realm of possibility than it is to, quit your job with 6 months worth of savings and then have to go back to the warehouse. Like I'm at peace with that. So like maybe like if there's anyone listening that is teetering on, they know their life isn't what they think it should be and they're hearing my voice, like figure it out. Like don't, maybe you should take the leap.
I mean, even if it's not the immediate leap, it's sort of what you've been doing over the past couple of years at least anyway.
Yeah, like you can't just pack a backpack and like, get on a plane. Like you can't just leave because that's another lie. Like that's another dream, like another silly dream. Like you've got to, like when I was growing up, I always had the dreams, but never the how. And now like later in like life, I'm like, I got to find the how, like what's the stepping? Okay, cool. There's the destination. Where's the first stepping stone? Oh, better call I might get in touch with Monica Strutt because she seems to be doing this thing. She seems to be solving the problem I have of like getting over that fucking chasm of like not knowing anything and then, you know, knowing something. So yeah, you've got to, like, I've, you know, done that over the last 2 or 3 years, trying to improve where I, you know, sucked, and trying to become like a competent novice at most things.
What have you I think you mentioned earlier about sort of spending time with different people just to try and get your head into the right space and sort of look at things a little bit more optimistically about the future. I mean, were there particular people, or I mean, I know that we share a bit of an interest in similar books and things like that we've read. I mean, what sort of things sort of helped sort of remold or reframe sort of the way that you sort of looked at the future?
Well, it started off with celebrities, because like more so Russell Brand and like the journey he went on, where he was like, oh, I had all these drugs and pussy and money and I still wasn't happy. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I want drugs, pussy and money, but like I'm thinking that'll make me happy. Tell me more, Russell. What do you mean it didn't make you happy? Because that's kind of my whole plan. And so like the journey he went on opened me up. I was like, wow, I've never heard adults talk like this before. Never heard anyone admit that they've messed up. It was always like, you know, I've been surrounded kind of by victims my whole life. Like, I don't mean that in a detrimental way to anyone, but, you know, I'm just telling you what happened. Don't blame me. I'm telling you what I saw. So I myself became a victim. So that was the thing. Like after that, I discovered Jordan Peterson, who wrote 12 Rules for Life, and that I really enjoyed his like clinical psychology look at everything. It was like this ice cold look, and like, here's I can't do his work. Here's how your brain is doing that. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So, you know, oh, okay, like, yeah, like I'm gonna, you know, adapt things. It's such a shame that he became a celebrity, because the message is now lost and distorted and all this like horrible stuff. But that reminds me somewhat, like, isn't that exactly what happened to Jesus? I don't know. Does history repeat? Because it sounds like this is what happened to Jesus. But except I don't think Jesus ended up in Russia on a bunch of drugs. Or did he? Was that I can't tell.
Might be a different story.
Yeah, it's a separate chapter of the Bible. But then I sort of started to see it in people around me, and I fell in love with this songwriter named Ben Delacour, who wrote these songs, man. Like a lot of his stuff just is like acoustic and just his vocals, but he's just got this style of writing. It's so dark and just cuts. And I managed to, because I got into it because I used to date his brother's girlfriend. It's like the whole thing. And so thankfully I was able to get in touch with him and talk to him about songwriting. And like I tried, like I was, because I was upset. I just wanted to write songs. Like I wanted to get good. I wanted to get better at it. I wanted to learn how to get out in my heart and my head. I wanted to get it out into other people's hearts and heads. And it's not like the stuff he wrote, like there's songs that just like stopped me in my tracks, where I was just be like, whoa, that's so like oddly specific to me. Like it's got this wonderful sort of, he writes very specific stories, but like the problems are kind of broad, but also I can't really explain it. I could prattle on for hours about his songwriting. I can't say enough good stuff about it, but he came to Australia and played. Like he's not famous at all. Like he's just a song. He's just a proper troubadour. Like he just does it. Him. No, like you wouldn't have, but like you listen to him and be like, oh wow, like this is good shit.
Yeah, okay.
And he came to Australia, and this is just before COVID hit, and I got to spend some time with him, and we like hit it off, and like I got a lot of like just great little whether he was meaning. He's kind of one of those people that exudes this wisdom without trying. He'll just say something like, and he'll be like, what? Like, did I say that? I don't think that's kind of not what I meant. But like, you know, it's a lot of like really cool. He's kind of like just one of those cool cats. So he drops lines like, oh yeah, man, songwriting ain't for pussies, man. Like you got to take what you hate about yourself and double down on it, because that's what makes you unique. Like just little cool things like that. So I'd like show him stuff and sort of bounce off him, and just like he suffers a bit of an existential dread himself, so which, you know, comes out in his music and whatnot. So it was nice to have him. But generally it wasn't really like it was just a lot of friends, like a lot of people like you, where I just end up in front of for no real reason, and just connecting and yeah, like living with friends. Like I had one mate became like, I talked him into buying some knife making shit, and so for me to convince him to do that, and because he'd always wanted to do it, like I learned a lot of lessons from like maybe I should just buy the thing and start making the knives. Like, I don't know, the lessons started just pouring in from once I'd opened myself up to lessons, they just pour in. So there's some specific beautiful people that I like simply must mention. People like Andrew Hudson, like wonderful. The amount of phone calls I had with him over the years, like when I was just telling to him like, man, I'm done. Like, I'm never making metal ever again. Like, this sucks and whatnot. And he just hear me out, give me tough love when I needed it, like tell a good joke when he needs to. Like that's a beautiful friendship that I cherish dearly. And I don't know, there's too many. I feel bad. Like if I had foreseen this, I would have written a massive list and shot out some love, because there's so many wonderful people. Like my partner, she's super supportive and she's wonderfully grounded. Like she's all very realistic about everything, but knows that I'm a whimsical, I get carried away by my ideas and whatnot. And she's just so beautiful in the way she handles things. And she's so supportive. And I remember in one instance, I said to her, I was like, Hannah, if my songs are shit, you have to fucking tell me. You can't let me go and do this. And then I listened to it years later and be like, why did everyone let me do that? And she refused to tell me whether it was good or not. And I was like, why? Do you hate it? What's going on? But she was like, sweetie, would it matter what I thought? And I was like, no, I'm doing it anyway. She's like,
there you go.
There's your, yeah. She helped me. She's wonderfully adult in that sense. So, I'm 31 years old. I had money in the bank. I had all these ideas and, a wonderfully supportive partner. I feel like it was really kind of like now or never to do this.
Do you think that with a lot of this stuff, as you said, once you open your mind up a little bit more, you start to, the lessons just started flowing in. You start to see where you can learn things. Do you think a lot of that comes from I think you've taken a lot more of a vulnerable approach over the years where you just I get the feeling anyway, I mean, reality could be a very different story, but I get the feeling where you've got an element of, I don't give a fuck. This is me. This is everything. This is how I feel. This is what I'm thinking. And I'm just going to put it out there. And if you can identify with it and you can connect with it and you get something from it, fantastic. If you don't, then more power to you, whatever. And I think if that's the case, then I think that's where a lot of these relationships and connections with people just flourish, because you start to cut through the noise. And I think people are attracted to people like that, from a friendship point of view and wanting to connect, because I think everyone wants to have an element of being vulnerable. I think we all struggle to do it. I think we all have a very sort of shallow way of communicating and spending time with each other. And we don't really get under the surface very often. It's very rare that we get to do it. We don't usually find ourselves in places where we allow ourselves to sort of open up a bit more. So that's my sort of armchair analysis of you. Is that sort of like something that you've, I mean, not consciously done, but do you think that might be something that's helped you cultivate the relationships that you got?
I think it has, but I've gotten better at that. It's one thing to air quotes tell it like it is, all that stuff you described about this is me, I know what I am, I'm going to put it out there, and those that want to be around can, and those that can't can't care about it. I used to do that from a place of arrogance, and it's the same energy, but these days it comes with it's based in humility. Because I'm vulnerable, so I'm going to put myself out there, and it's not just my good things. I'm going to put myself out there, all my vulnerabilities, and it comes from a place of humility and vulnerability. I think that's why people react differently to me now.
Oh, no doubt. I think, and as I said before, I think that's something that people, not everybody, but I mean, you don't want everybody to be attracted to you. You want people that are like-minded to gravitate towards you. And I think if you're taking that approach yourself, then you're going to find other people that are willing to, be on a similar page to yourself as well. And that's and it's just incredible. I mean, I know for myself, like I am still somebody that has a lot of acquaintances. I'm just one of those people that, I'll go to a pub or just, back in the gig days, and I would just walk around the room. I'd work the room. I couldn't just stand and sit down with one person and have a great conversation. I need to get around. I need to keep moving. And so that was great. It's fantastic. But then when it came time for me to want to do something and try and find somebody to do it with, it was very hard because I had these very shallow surface relationships with people.
I see.
Which was quite difficult. So in some ways, I felt very fulfilled because I had, no, I know everybody. Like I can walk around the room and just say hi to everyone and it's all pleasant. But to really sort of have any of those deeper connections with people, it's a bit of an eye opener for me. And I still don't think I'm there. I think I'm a way off. But it's certainly been sort of a path that I've been sort of more conscious of and trying to make a little bit more of an effort to dig below the surface. And I think the podcast has obviously helped because it's been a sort of a sneaky way of me sort of getting better at having conversations with people. Yeah.
Plus you get that time with something like, we've been here for an hour chatting, like just me and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time. Yeah. It's time. That's what does it.
It's, and it takes, and like, I mean, for us now, I think we've known each other for long enough where we pretty much, as soon as we answered the call, we just got straight into it and started talking. But,
how long have we known each other now? 2006,
2006. So 15. Getting 15
years. Yeah.
Crazy, hey?
Dude, that fucking, that Lord lineup, like Mav, TY, Tim and you, like that. Like, I watched I think you shared the Metro show.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like catching some bars of it. And I was like, whoa, I still remember being in that tiny Hobart pub. I'd never seen anything fucking like that. I'd never seen guys like Mav and Tim play live. You see it on videos and instructional DVDs, but it was the first band I'd ever seen that were hitting the harmonies, doing the shreds, the thrash catchiness, the whole thing, dude. Blew my mind.
That was I don't think we ever experienced anything like that. I don't think we did ever since. I think those first few runs down to Hobart and played the Trout and just that tiny little corner of the pub, but just packed with people. And
dude,
it was
it's so good. Now that place is called the Winston now. It's the best place to eat in Hobart. I love it there. I go there all the time.
Yeah, right.
And it's real nice for me. There's so much of my personal history there.
Yeah, I
could never realize there's so many nights there where things happened, big historical things.
Time flies, though. I mean, a lot's happened since then. In some ways, I mean, it's like anything. Depends on the angle that you look at the situation. But in some ways, time has certainly dragged on, and there's been a lot of different things, twists and turns over the years. But then you look at it maybe on a higher level, and it's like the blink of an eye. I can easily think that it could have been a week ago that we were down there playing those first few shows in the fucking middle of winter, freezing our asses off, going, oh my God,
drinking Cascade Draft.
Oh yeah, that's right. Then walking the streets and just, oh God, yeah, there was messy times.
Yeah, the days are long. Life is short, but the days are long, I think is the saying.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah. So it's been a long time, man, and I think with it's great when you're able to sort of keep connected with people for a longer period of time, because then it's easier to sort of fall into great conversations and sort of go back and forth. But even for me, and this is one of the great things about the podcast is that it does carry on for an hour or so, and it does sometimes take for particular people that might not be used to it, it might take 15-20 minutes just of a little bit of not small talk, but we just sort of dart around the place, talk about a few different random things, and then we find something, and then we lock in.
Yeah, that'll hook. Oh, I love that feeling when it hooks, man. I don't you probably know I don't really enjoy small talk all that much. I like to get there. It's to dive in. Tell me what you were like in high school. What was it like? Were you bullied? Did you bully anyone? Just go straight into something. I don't really care what the weather was like today. I know I was here. Like, I saw it. Like, who cares?
It's tough. It's tough, especially when, for, the traditional sort of jobs that a lot of us have, it's that on repeat every day.
Oh, yeah. I never even thought about that, man. Like, imagine all these, like, poor kids getting their brains recalibrated by citing the company lines all day, every day. Where, hopefully there's people out there quitting their jobs to become the next great talkers and showmen and stuff.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed there's a few people out there influencing them and leading the way.
Yeah, hopefully. They could jump on my TikTok and get 3 great tips on how to improve your YouTube engagement. Go to me. I should just get on TikTok and just start just telling people to quit their job. That's the secret. You want to quit your job and do what you love? Just go to your boss. Give him the appropriate amount of leave, and then you've left. You've done. You've won it. Simple steps. Beyond that, you're on your own, kid. Like,
yeah. What do you do after that? I've got no idea. But at least you got to that point,
dude. You started like asking your podcaster mates if they've got any mates that'll have you on their podcast. That's how I'm here. Like I did Mon's the other week, and she reminded me to get in touch with you. And this is good. Like, I'm bringing it all back. I want We did dive right into a conversation, but like, thank you, man. I got that package in the mail today, which has your business card. It says, let's chat soon. Okay. I must have messaged you like a few days after you'd sent this. It's weird.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was funny because we were talking and I had sent that off and I thought, I wonder if he's going to get it before we chat, because that'd be kind of cool if he got it. And,
I literally got it this afternoon. That's wild.
There you go.
Check out old mate from the Tasmania, Wayne McDaniel. Never heard of him. Tall dude though. Just for the listeners at home, Andy likes to send basketball cards. It's this weird. I think it's like some sort of laundering thing that he does.
Oh, mate. I was about to put a post on Facebook this afternoon actually, because I'm running out of the old Australian basketball cards, and I thought I might put a shout out there and just see if anybody's got some that are collecting dust and they can send them to me, because I tell you what, I don't think anybody gets the same amount of thrill that I do actually putting them into these little packages and sending them off. I don't think anyone gives a fuck when they get to the other end, but for me, I get the biggest rush when I'm like flicking through and I go, oh, okay, now he lives in Hobart, so let's see if I can find an old school Tassie Devils card, because then, there's a connection there. And I say this to Jess all the time. When I get to a point, and it's going to be when, I don't have to worry about money anymore. Yep. And I am, air quotes, financially free or independent, whatever that looks like. Yeah. The only thing I want to do is dumb shit like that 24/7. Yeah. I want to just, like, if I think of a funny prank or a funny joke and I want to make, want to make trading cards, I want to make T-shirts or stickers or whatever it is, and just go and do it. And it's not even to make money. I'll just send them out to people for free. I'll send them. Yeah. I'll just have a list of people, and then every few weeks or every few months, they're just going to get this random fucking thing in the mail and go, what the fuck is this? And that, in my head, is what just, like, it tickles me pink. Like, I just fucking I love it. I love it. And I think that's probably why we as a band have done really well over the years with the way we've connected with people, is, especially for me, like, I'm just looking across the room now, I've got shelves of Lord CDs and vinyl, and I've got all the boxes of the T-shirts and things like that. And, we still sell stuff, and I'll fucking write on the back of one of these fucking Mork trading cards, which I've still got a bunch of them. Yeah. And I'll write a little note on there and put that in there. And then when I'm walking back from the post office, I go and do a fucking video and put it on a private link on YouTube, and I send the video link to them and say, thank you so much. Yeah. And sometimes I look at the stats of those videos, and there's a whole bunch of them that are just zero. A bunch of people just don't even watch them. But I get the biggest fucking thrill out of doing it. I fucking love it. And you get that one. And then when, every once in a while someone goes, oh my God, like a video, thank you? What the fuck is this? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, it's sick. Well, see, I did notice the touch. I was like, oh, the Tasmanian Devils, that's really sweet. Like, I got it right away. Ah, that's good. I love it. I'm not supposed to know this person, but he's thought of me because he's got that Tasmanian card. I made the connection. I was like, yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, oh, dude. I mean, I'm pumped for you. I think, I've grown a real keen interest in what you've been doing over the past couple of years, and sort of working through a whole bunch of different things and transitioning away from, you know, the old identity and the things that we spoke about, you know, when we did that first podcast.
That initial one, yeah.
Yeah, and then where you're at now, and sort of, you know, getting to this point now where you're making that decision, and as you said, like, you know, it can be 6-12 months down the track, and you might just turn around and go, you know what, this is not working. I'm going to have to pivot, or I might go back and go back and do what I was doing beforehand. Whatever that might be is an unknown, but the fact that you're even doing it is, you know, just incredible in itself. So it's just exciting to see what you're doing, and I think that's probably why, you know, you've already had such a great uptake with Patreon to begin with, because I think people want to be a part of it. I think people love it, and it's genuine. You're trying to do something. You want to better yourself. You want to do something, you know, that you love doing. You want to do it all the time, and I think when people get the opportunity to go, hey, I can actually help that person, then
I'm not shit at it. Like, I was
I think you're right.
Shittest guitar player. Like, the songs are like, you know, getting there. It's good. I feel really good about all that too.
So what's the go with the next steps? Because I saw the what I assume is the album artwork that you posted the other day. What's that all look like, and what's the coming months look like for you?
So, like, I'm streaming on Twitch 12:30 to 5:30. Those are my rough hours, because I love doing that, and there's just like a good group of people on there that, like, you know, give me, like, it's just good banter. There's no other way to put it. Like, we just give each other heaps of shit. It's kind of wonderful. Like, I just sit here and play games, and then, like, there's these strangers on the internet, just like, they're not strange. I shouldn't even call them that anymore. Like, I talk to them more often than I talk to, you know, like my real life friends. But pretty much, like, I'm like working on this album, Power, Wisdom, Courage, which the demos, I've had it in my head for about a year. Initially, I think it all sort of came to me in October 2019. And I started thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great if I could if I could just have an idea like this and then immediately start working on it? That was the first, like, that would make me really happy. That was the first of, like, am I happy? No, because I can't work on this idea that I'm just, like, so excited about. Like, the whole concept came to my head. So I've been working on those songs for, you know, that long, in it, like any waking moment I had. And so the demo, like, I've got the skeletons correct. Like, it's all pre-production, you know, demo takes and, like, chopped up and whatnot. But the pre-production's just on Patreon, and I kind of want to show people that. So when they get the final product, I want to see the journey, because I love, again, this is like, what could a band do that would make me really, you know, stoked? So I've like, they're showing the demos, and it's got my, like, real nasty vocal takes, like like completely, like, concept idea type stuff. And so I'm working on that with every waking moment, and I've got, like, Joe Haley lined up to mix and master it. He's done my other stuff, and, like, his game has just, like, shifted. I think he got some new pieces of gear and learned a few new tricks, but, like,
he's incredible.
You can hear after When My Lantern Fails, we did The Holy Fire, and that was when he got this new gear. Like, I think he got better speakers and some other, like, outboard gear. And man, like, the last two songs, The Holy Fire and A Ballad of Heartbreak and Despair, just, like, despair. I talk for a living now. I quit my job to do this. Yeah, those like just crush now. So, like, my knowledge of production mixed and, like, my ability to speak his language, like, we've got this really great, like, relationship now, because we've worked together for a long time. He did, like, a bunch of the Taberah stuff too. So, like, I'm really excited for, like, getting that and how it sounds. But, you know, because of the nature of my brain, I'm always looking at the horizon as well. Like a more traditional metal album has, you know, arisen, which I'm just going to call Fierce Deity 1. So the next few, I've applied for a grant, like the Nick Balcom Foundation. It's a Tasmanian grant. I probably shouldn't have said this on air, because if there's any Tasmanian artists out there, probably going to look it up. I'm going to do my chances down. But I need that more than you. All right, I quit my job. So, like, I've gone for that, which would mean I wouldn't have to chip into my savings to, like, you know, pay Joe, pay the artist back, pay Ryan Hancock, who did the artwork. Fucking amazing. Like, I got his work up on my wall, and I was like, I wonder if he would do something for me. And then, of course, it's always that thing. It's like an email away, and he's like, yeah, man, that idea sounds great. Actually, I dig your tunes, so it'd be nice to work with each other. I'm like, huh, okay, that was just an idea that's now a real thing. So the artwork's the artwork's all there and done, and it looks stunning, like painted and whatnot. So I'm working on that like a mad scientist, sit with my little keyboard, wondering where to take it and how to finish it. And it's like, I don't know, it feels different working on other albums, man, because it like people are listening to it already, like they're hearing it, and like I'll add something. I'm not far off, putting the next phase, like more ideas and more evolved idea up onto Patreon, up into the temple, and doing that differently. And so, yeah, that's what it looks like for me, man. I'm waking up, and if I'm burnt out on doing it, like I'll just get in touch with a friend, or like, go out and do something like wholesome, and then the wind comes back into sails, and I spend the time making music. Like it's my dream. It's corny as shit, but it's my dream to have this freedom. It's like when I have an idea, I can come and do it. So yeah, I'm making that album. I aim to release 2 albums this year. I want to do Power, Wisdom, Courage, and the working title of the album is Fierce Deity 1. Power, Wisdom, Courage is like 3 songs, and it's like I kind of like dip on the, like my spectrum is like power metal, stoner metal, and all the tracks end up on the slider somewhere. And the Power, Wisdom, Courage stuff is like way over to the stoner metal. So it's like 30 minutes of music, and it's 3 or 4 songs. I couldn't write short songs. I couldn't shorten them down. I didn't want to. I'm like, I'm going to do something ridiculous out of the box. But Fierce Deity 1's going to be like that more traditional 10 songs, couple of bangers, couple of longer ones, like all based around like an idea and whatnot. So, man, I'm just like a man with his ideas and all the time in the world to do it. Couldn't be happier.
Life's good, mate.
Yeah. Finally.
All right, a call to action, folks. Go to fiercedeityband.com. Go to patreon.com/fiercedeityband. Of course, go to Bandcamp, fiercedeityband.bandcamp.com. On the socials, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Just get behind Jono's project. It's so inspiring to see somebody just dive in full steam and just completely immerse themselves in something that they're so passionate about. So 2021 is a big year for Jono, and let's help him make it a success. So if you that way inclined, you're excited about it, and you love the episode and the previous episodes that we've done with Jono, go and reach out to him, say hello, buy some merch, buy some of his music, go and subscribe to the pages, go and do whatever you can. Join the Patreon as well, and I'm sure he'd be absolutely stoked for any support that you can throw his way. I'd love to see a bit of the Antisocial faithful jumping on board and supporting Jono. Some great music, great musician, and great guy. So there you go. Lots of gushing compliments for me, mate JB. Before we wrap it up, of course, patreon.com/Andy Dowling. We've got a new t-shirt design that's about to be unleashed. It might be unleashed by now. Don't know. You might have to go to Patreon and have a look. And we're going to give the Patreon community first dibs on this t-shirt. I'm only doing a limited run of this particular t-shirt design. And if there are any leftovers, then I will unleash them to the rest of you common folk out there that aren't on Patreon yet. So we'll see how that one goes. But lots of fun things in store for this year. We've got the Patreon podcast episode that comes out every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Sydney time, a bit of karaoke, some stories from around the world, some old school television commercials, and a bunch of silly stuff that happens every week on the Patreon podcast episode. So jump over to patreon.com/Andy Dowling. It is the reason why Andy Social's up and running in 2021, 5.5 years into it. It's the reason why we've upped it to 2 episodes a week as well. And I'm absolutely motivated to build this platform bigger and bigger to be able to support and just give back to these amazing people that have been on the podcast, and also allow you all to continue to enjoy the podcast as well. Hopefully you guys get something out of it, and I'm hoping that I can provide some more things that will be enriching and entertaining and valuable for you all as you listen to these guests each and every week. So Patreon is sort of the mechanism and the tool and the motivator for me to continue to push this podcast more and more as the months and years roll on. So thank you so much to everybody that's jumped on Patreon so far. In particular, my top tier Patreon supporters in my $10 and $20 tier categories, or tiers, or whatever the hell they are. I think I just said tiers twice there. But nonetheless, you guys understand what I'm saying. Thank you so much to these people. They're heavy hitters, significant contributors to the podcast. And it blows me away that people are supporting even at $1, let alone $10 and $20 a month. So thank you so much to these people. So in particular, a shout out to Andrew from Perth, Mick G from Sydney, Ash from Deniliquin, Dan from Dapto, Rod from Rayleigh in North Carolina, Patrick from Canberra, Liam from Brisbane, Chris from Sydney, Brendo from Leeton, Tim from Canberra, James from Brisbane, and Christian from Canberra. Thank you so much, folks. If you have joined in the past couple of weeks, rest assured you'll get a shout out at some stage on the podcast. And of course, every week there's a full list shout out on the Patreon podcast as well. Just a continuous thank you to all these legends that continue to support the podcast via Patreon. So thank you so much. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Really want to see a crowd build this year in 2021. So I'd love to have your support, and I'll be there to welcome you with open arms. So enough crapping on from me. Next week's episodes, who the hell knows? I've got a whole bunch. I've got a bucket. I'm borderline pulling names out of a hat at the moment of all these recordings that I've done. I've got a nice bank of amazing people. I'm still recording more as well, and I'm just sort of picking them out as I go. Not terribly strategic, just to keep me on my toes. You know what I mean? So anyway, here we go. Enjoy. Until next week, take care, keep spreading around, keep doing the social media love, and just thank you so much for listening. Take care, folks. Ta-ta.